and it relates strongly to the uterus and prostate. And in that same vein of building up and then releasing, it relates to ejaculation. And I'm going to bow to the knowledge of the women, but apparently women ejaculate as well as men. And I kind of looked it up. I was going to look it up earlier in the day, but for some reason it got left behind. It's called the Sheen's glands. And these are kind of the same, with their erectile tissue, they're between the vagina and the urethra. They look really funky, by the way. I remember seeing some pictures of these before and thinking, what's that? I mean, they're painted green. They look like Martians or something. I thought, well, maybe that's the lymph system or something. But really funky things there growing around the urethra. And it's made of the same material as the prostate and also is erectile tissue, and it's got openings into the urethra so that women can also ejaculate in orgasm. So there'd be it's not, obviously it's not as big as the prostate, but there's a similar function. So women have both. They have the mirror of the prostate as the uterus, or the men have the mirror of the uterus as the prostate, and then along with that women have their own prostate material and erectile tissue, which is the bottom 1/5 of the vagina, and it's between there and the bottom of the urethra. And again, you see, the scientists didn't know what the clitoris looked like. It took a non-scientist woman to tell the scientists that the clitoris was much bigger than they were saying it was, and where it was, for it to actually get into the anatomy books. And it wasn't fully in the anatomy books till about 2010. And it's a similar thing with this funky looking Sheen glands. They say, well, women ejaculate, but we can't really tell what it is or what's in it, or really investigate. So if any women want to tell the scientists what's going in there, on there, feel free. I think they're a bit nervous of it or something. But anyway, they're still investigating that to find out what it is. But there's that same function of a man ejaculating. Now, a man ejaculating, obviously, there's a need for that, for the semen to come out. So it's a bigger thing. But there's the mirror image in women, and this is also part of the energy of the gallbladder, is to do with ejaculation or building up, a bit like manic depressive. You get higher and higher and higher, and if you don't have a way of releasing that energy, you just go into mania until finally after days or however long it takes of going bananas, it releases and you come down into depression. And it's the same thing with the gallbladder. It builds up with gall. There's this feeling as it fills up with this fluid, and it fills, and then when we eat or whatever it is, it releases down into the digestive tract. And there's this, it's an ejaculation, there's this feeling of slower maybe, but it's an energetic relationship, and also nymphomania. If people have a charge in their gallbladder and can't release that energy, then it just leads into surface and unresourcing sex, because it's a different type of orgasm. It's quite a surface type affair. So it's this feel, and by hopefully, I mean, I get it when I work on the gallbladder. I get this building of energy, and then this ejaculation. I'm going to call it an ejaculation because it so strongly relates to the prostate, and you can feel that same energy. So I don't know what's going to happen in the women, but I presume as the energy releases from the gallbladder and it comes down a tube into the duodenum, which is the last organ in this circuit. The energy from the gallbladder releases into the duodenum. At the same time, in the prostate, the energy from the prostate releases into the penis, and I guess for the women, the energy in the uterus will release into the vagina. And I guess whatever this fluid, that I don't even think it's got a name yet, the fluid from the Sheens gland releases into the urethra. I guess that will happen at the same time, but again, I bow to the women's knowledge on that. You will have to tell me if you want to. So I didn't really want to write that up, but I guess if people had known that in advance, this would be a much more popular webinar. So that is what we're going to be working with. I'm playing a bit in my mind, and I don't know if it will fit in, but I may do on the building of that, and I guess the women may feel it stronger than the man. You do have the polar opposites of the ovum and the sperm, and this creation again has a lot to do with the gallbladder, but this is the other way around. This is the building of the energies in the gallbladder. You have the ovum coming down, which is kind of the, I call it primordial, but I'm sure it's got a better name, kind of the fullness of the female quality, the egg ovum coming down. It has the female energy to it, and it's quite happy on its own working down, and it comes to its fullness and its magnetism to draw in the male energy, the polar opposite. And you have the opposite of the sperms coming towards them, which they have a charge, they have an energy. Here we go, I've got to win this race, and they're the opposite thing. They're really charging towards the ovum, and then they arrive, and somehow the ovum chooses one of those, and you get this change of state from male and female to both and life. So, and the life and the receiving of spirit. So the gallbladder is part of that whole, as a building process, that whole start of life. But on the other hand, if people get a charge in their gallbladder or something going on with their gallbladder that it doesn't readily release its energy. You just build up, and you go full on into mania until it gets discharged, and then you get a deep drop down into depression, or you just get addicted to sex, or you get addicted to gambling, the highs and lows. So we clear this energy from the gallbladder, and then that leads to a much more sustained, balanced life without driving yourself mad, without the big highs and big lows. And this will relate to everybody differently, but it will relate to everyone to one level or another. Everybody has a gallbladder, however well it's working or not. So this is an investigation, and we will just have to be seeing how it goes. I can feel the energy rising already, so I think it may be strong. Let's look at some pictures.